Well, to my mind, 25 minutes is a long phone call. It's comprehensive. It's, it doesn't look like, they just exchanged the pleasantries or not between the two sides. So they must have talked about things in depth. I think probably Bibi Netanyahu offered his assessment, offered his next plan, and heard what President Biden had to say. I would say that there's a lot of disagreement, at least judging by the public statements of both sides. I think he more or less probably got the U.S. blessing for whatever Israel plans to do next vis-a-vis Iran.
All right, Hussein Abdul Hussein with the Foundation for Defensive Democracies. Thank you for making time for us tonight. Can't thank you enough, and we'll talk soon. Remember, we have been speaking about this all throughout the course of the week, about what it would look like, what form it would take, and it is now here. And so we want to continue to bring in voices who know this region of the world very, very well, who study it each and every day, who have studied it each and every day since October 7th and how it is related to the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza as well here. Right now, and we thank our colleague Austin Westfall, who did a tremendous job guiding you through the last 4 hours. I'm going to do the same here in our extended coverage tonight. And you see there, Lieutenant Daniel Hagari.
What type and how many projectiles have been...
All right, it does look like we do have this in English. The IDF with an update. Let's listen, let's watch.
Can you specify by region?
The event is still occurring, but until now, over 200 different kinds have been fired to Israel.
Still trying to set things up,
drones,
guys.
Ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. We have already intercepted a vast majority of the threats by Israeli systems and with assistance from our partners. We are still in the event. Our planes are still in the air, intercepting targets, and we are ready for any threat that will come to Israel. We will do everything.
I'm also watching UFC 300, so bear with me.
Much.
All right, so you're just listening there. It did go into English. Reporters there asking questions. So we got just a little bit of it, not a lot. But I think the headline, over 200 drones headed straight for Israel. Of course, Israel and its assets and partners and allies in the region have capabilities to defend itself against some of those incoming drones as well here. So we're going to continue with this coverage right now. We're going to bring into the conversation with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, David Daoud, and he joins me to help us make sense of all of this. David, thanks for being with us. I know you and I have spoken about not only the Israel-Hamas conflict, but the nature of the threat of Iran. And I want to ask you first, because you and I have discussed this so many times, about at the outset of October 7th and in the wake of October 7th, every entity in this conflict was worried and concerned about spillover effects, regional escalation. That is what you heard time and time again over the last 6 months. Is that regional escalation here? Have we arrived at that point? What say you?
Thank you again for having me on. Look, I don't know if it's properly characterized as a regional escalation. This is now the first direct confrontation between Israel and Iran that has occurred in the course of
So this is apparently what it looked like. Now it seems like everything's died down for tonight. I don't think there's any extra attacks. So I really don't have much to update of anything going on at the moment. I do know they fired like 200 drones, some ballistic missiles, some cruise missiles. And as far as I know, that's it. Now, they hit a town. I don't think everything was intercepted, but most of it was intercepted. U.S. warships intercepted some. Iron Dome intercepted the bulk of it. But I would expect a retaliation. I don't particularly believe that Iran's going to continue. I think they just wanted to make a statement. That's my personal opinion. Iran's not the type to push it too much. But I've been wrong before. I mean, I didn't think they were actually going to go through with this. Imagine living in a place where you have to deal with that. Now, it's like I put in the description, this is not, I'm not here to talk about the wrongs of Israel. I'll leave that to people like Dave Smith. And I'm not here to defend Israel. I'll leave that to people like Good Logic, who just ironically replied to Dave Smith on Twitter. You know, people have their views, man. People have their opinions. I have mine. I have quite a few opinions, but at the end of the day, I mean, nobody wants war. And that's why I'm covering it. It's because, like, it's crazy, man. It's more escalation. And it's midnight on a Saturday, so I don't expect people to really come in here. But I'm also watching the UFC. I should have just kept watching, but I wanted to see. And I am going to read some stuff here. World leaders collectively condemn Iran's reckless attack. Yeah, I do think it's all done for tonight. I probably shouldn't have come live, but just in case. Let's see what these losers have to say.
This is an attack that so far we know has put a 10-year-old girl, Israeli girl, in life-threatening condition. As far as IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari has said, Rear Admiral Hagari said, there's been light infrastructure damage to an Israeli military base in South Israel. Outside of that, you know, as you heard, the attack is still considered ongoing by the IDF, so it's not finished. We don't know how this will all end. The interceptions of these rockets, if any of them are intercepted over Israel, the shrapnel, the damage that could cause to life and limb and property. But again, yes, I'm glad you raised this point that this was in contrast, by the way, to the Israeli strike on the Damascus, the Iranian consulate in Damascus. This was an indiscriminate strike. It wasn't a precision strike.
Right. You know, David, that's why and how this has all been precipitated.
That seems to be what most people are saying.
April the 1st, and, you know,
but
you can safely say, I
I'll
think,
let y'all
Israel
decide how y'all feel about that.
U.S.
That's
officials
not my
believe
place.
Israel carried out this very pinpoint strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus in Syria, killing several
But like I said, it looks like it's over for tonight.
Officials. And that is why Iran is doing this.
So I probably won't be streaming this very long.
And that's why you and I are talking right now. I want to talk, though,
but
about
just in case some like crazy
Israel's
update.
capabilities in their defense structures. They have a lot of them. The Arrow, David's Sling, the Iron Dome, the Iron Beam. The worry is, and are you concerned by this,
America
that
supports
all of
Israel.
those systems will be overwhelmed tonight. Are we seeing any evidence of that?
Listen,
I don't think so far, right? They're the rockets that have been fired, the projectiles that have been fired.
I don't know how I feel.
Fired in the quantities.
I don't fully know how I feel.
Overwhelm any of these systems. I think mostly the systems that
all I know is war is bad. Okay.
Will be.
We should not be going into war.
Intermediate missiles. It also has capabilities to deal with drones. Iron Dome.
I would really appreciate it if America didn't get involved in this war, but it looks like they are.
International partners have helped with interceptions. As far as we know, the United States, the United Kingdom.
So that sucks.
Participated in interceptions reportedly over Iraq.
That's about the extent of my own bias to it right now.
And strikes in Yemen. There were reports that the Jordanians were intercepting projectiles, be they drones or the missiles that passed through their territory. Again, at the end of the day, the Israel Air Force.
Like I said, I'm currently watching UFC 300, so I'm a little preoccupied. But I did want to update.
But the quantities necessary to penetrate them have not been fired by Iran. And I think, by the way, that may have been intentional.
Sucks, man.
It needs to be stressed that what this attack demonstrates so far, because again, the incident isn't finished, but that Iran is largely a paper tiger. Okay. You know, I've been sitting here half joking that the Ayatollah Khamenei is praying that Iron Dome works very well. Because I don't think that they want to cause the type of damage that their threats suggest they are causing, because they know, as they admit in their most sober moments, that Israel is not the weak force that they claim it to be, and they are not the strong conventional force. Israel could target Iran back and make it a very painful strike, and I think they want to avoid that.
You know, David, just lastly, I mean, this is what I can't wrap my head around. The signals and the advance warning of this attack had been kind of posted all throughout the week. We knew this was coming. We knew the
anti-Israel stuff is going to take off.
And the fact, you know, we heard from President Biden on Friday.
It's like I said in my last stream, dude. All sides in this
and so you have to wonder whether that deterrence.
If you can't acknowledge that,
but on the flip side of that, whether you know Iran has this kind of
if you can't acknowledge that Iran is also wrong
at play, where they are launching.
I'm not saying that Israel
to your point,
hasn't had their faults,
effect that they intend.
But if you can't acknowledge that, man, then you're not being honest.
It just seems like, to your point, that this is weak retaliation on Iran's part for something. Are they just trying to send a message that they can do something,
exactly what
that
they're trying
to
do.
Going to stand by, that they had to react in some way? And is this what we're seeing as a result?
They have to save face.
Look, I mean, I'm a martial artist in some of my free time.
So, like, the reason that Iran attacked, so there's quite a few reasons. Like, when Israel struck the consulate in Damascus and killing those generals, Iran's already dealing with a half revolt in their country. You know, a lot of people do not like the regime in Iran. So when a bunch of generals get killed, they have to save face. Or like the people in Iran know that if they go to war with Israel, then they're all going to be targeted. You know, they're going to fall under the umbrella of a likely conflict. Nobody wants to be caught up in the crosshairs of a war. So I don't understand the long-term goals of Iran here. I mean, it seems kind of haphazard, but and sadly, people get mad if you don't take a strict stance against Israel, people get angry, and like I'm not gonna do that. There's plenty of YouTubers who have huge channels that you can go watch and get all the anti-Israel hate you want. That's not going to be what I do here. And sadly, I made a video criticizing a couple rabbis, and then everybody thought that I was an anti-Israel channel. And so, like, all of my engagement dropped off when they found out I wasn't an anti-Israel channel. That's not what I'm doing, man. Like, I call out evil people no matter who they are. Whether they're a rabbi, whether they're a priest, I'm going to call out anybody who's evil. So when I made that video about the Candace and the rabbis, everybody was like, oh, he hates Israel, we're going to support him. And then they came in and found out, no, I'm not just a staunch Israel hater, and that's not what I'm going to do. Sorry. I think I think Iran and Israel are pretty wrong. I think it's wrong to start wars. And if you think that Iran's just been, you know, completely innocent over the years, then you're lying. Because they haven't. And that's not saying Israel's been innocent either. That's not saying America's been innocent. America, I'm an American, so of course my qualms are with America and their instigation of conflict. So if I am going to express my personal bias, that's going to be the one I express the most. Is why is America instigating all of these conflicts in the Middle East? I don't like it. I want it to stop. But it's too late now. They've done it. So now what? We've effectively, for decades, we've been at war in the Middle East, and we've turned hundreds of thousands of Arabs against the United States that want to kill us now. And I don't blame them. So that's my reason. That's my bias. I don't want to be in war, man. I want America to get out of it. I want America to worry about America. So why can't I have that opinion and not just sit here and bash Israel all night? I don't know. The popular thing to do is to talk about how much you hate Israel. Like I said, I got 12,000 views in a matter of 2 days on the Candace video criticizing rabbis. And then the minute I stopped criticizing rabbis, which if rabbis do something evil, I'll criticize them again. I don't get it, man. And most of the people that, you know, express this rage have no idea of the history of any of this. But whatever. I had a feeling it would be a bad idea to go live at this time, though. I think for the most part, it's died down. So, tomorrow before I go to work, I'm going to probably cover the UN's reaction. Because I think they've obviously called an emergency meeting, which was to be expected. And then, of course, dipshit Biden is convening the G7 summit to probably go in and say, don't. But they got the war they wanted, man. They got the war they wanted. Lucky us. Now, prices are going to rise again. Oil's probably going to go up again. Okay, what's going on with my, it says stream status is excellent, but the audio stream's current bitrate is lower. Okay, let me. The audio. Okay, now it seems to be working good. Yay, yay, more war. All right, let's see. Yeah, so tomorrow I am going to stream whatever the UN has to say. Because, you know, they're going to all get together and do their thing with, like, we condemn this reckless attack. Is Israel the new me ice rink? Yeah. Yeah. Listen, dude, man, I don't know, man. I'm tired of, like I was mentioning before anybody came in here, I'm tired of everybody forcing me to be like, you have to condemn Israel. It's like, no, dude, no. I condemn war. Okay? On all sides. Iran has been browbeating for years, just as Israel's been browbeating for years. They all do it. The correct position is, hey, you all need to knock it off. How is that so hard? Why do I have to, like, personally condemn a particular country while celebrating another? Like, no. I condemn America, I condemn everybody, but me condemning people ain't gonna stop them from fighting war. And like I said in my last stream, I do have my personal bias about what Israel's doing. And I'm on both sides of it. Like, I understand some points, and then I don't understand some points. And that's the healthy position. And anybody telling you that's not the healthy position is a liar. But let's see if I can find something that is an update to give me a reason to why I even turned this stream on. The powers that be are natural resources. War is the means. Yep. Yep. You are correct, sir. You are very correct. War is a way to get rich. There's a reason. I was just in DC for the second time in February for my dad's retirement. And when you walk to Congress, there's a reason. If you look across the Congress, or you go to the Pentagon and you look across the street from the Pentagon, is all the defense contractors. That's where you see Lockheed, Boeing, everybody, all their big buildings. They just walk across the street to the Pentagon. Hey, we need you to start this conflict so we can sell all these tanks or we can sell all these aircraft. War is a racket. That's why I forgot the name of the author, but the guy who wrote that book years ago called War is a Racket, because that's what it is. And I was in the military. I wasn't in war, but there's a reason, I worked on airplanes. There's a reason that one seat in an airplane costs like $80,000. It's a racket. And like I said, I'm watching UFC 300, so that's why I'm not really paying attention to the camera. But which I do want to read something, but I don't think that there's any like significant update. I think it's all over for tonight. Now somebody, Angela, whoever the hell this is, Donald Trump has started World War III. How in the hell is this Donald Trump's fault? He hasn't been in office in almost 4 years. These people, dude. Oh, these freaking people, man. This is somehow Donald Trump's fault. He hasn't been president in years. But okay. Okay. Why won't we protect Ukraine skies too? We've sent them quite a few fighter jets. These Ukraine shields are something else, dude. What is Laura Loomer crying about now? Like, listen, I'm a Trump supporter. Okay, I'm not afraid to say that. But Laura Loomer annoys the absolute hell out of me. Like, she doesn't make us look good, man. Like, she just doesn't. I'm all about being, like, going after people and you know, calling people out, but the stuff she says sometimes, dude. People are allowed to have other opinions. Like, not everybody's your enemy just because they disagree with something. I disagree with several of Trump policies. I disagreed with the bump stock ban. I disagreed with his comments on red flag laws. I disagreed. What else did I disagree with? I disagree with the COVID response and the vaccines for sure. But that doesn't mean I throw the baby out with the bathwater. I just throw the baby out. My father spent his career working for DoD contractors, JPL, Martin Marietta, Nemesis, Boeing. I was ignorantly proud of that fact. Oh, well, my dad is, he just retired after 30 years in the Army. He's an officer. So I understand. Now, I am proud of his career. I mean, there were times where he thought he was doing something important, and later in life did he realize, you know, some of the things he took part in, sadly, he was lied to about. And then, of course, he worked for, at one point, he worked for, what's that company? It's a contracting company. I can't remember the name of it. But I was in the Navy. I worked on the C-2 Greyhound, which is a Northrop Grumman plane, and I was offered a job at Northrop Grumman when I got off the Navy, and I didn't take it. I kind of wanted to take it because that's a lot of money, but I didn't take it. I ended up becoming a pilot instead. Which I am still in flight school. But I am a pilot, finally. After $40,000 in debt. And that's including my GI Bill. But, I mean, you still have a reason to be proud of your dad, dude. You still have a reason to be proud. Just because he worked for these companies doesn't make him... We were all propagandized. Yep. We were. There was a point in time years ago when I was initially in the Navy at 19 where I thought everything we did in Iraq was justified. And I'm not going to show these pictures, but my dad did multiple tours and he was in Iraq. He was in Mosul. And I have pictures here. I'm not going to tell you what they are. But yeah. We were definitely lied to, but there were also some things that were going on in Iraq that we still don't know. So at one point, the narrative shifted. You know, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, and we figured out, oh, they don't have weapons of mass destruction, but they kind of did. They just didn't have nukes or anything like that. They had chemical weapons, which are classified as weapons of mass destruction because of Chemical Ali back in the day when, you know, they were killing off their population. And those Vietnam, World War II era chemicals still existed in the country. And they were littered throughout the country. When they were demolishing buildings, they were finding these chemicals. There's a lot of people that wrote books and they blew the whistle on that later on. And I have some evidence of some stuff that I won't really say what it is because there really isn't any reason. When the narrative shifted to, oh, they lied about weapons of mass destruction, then that was the narrative. And they still did lie about it. But there was stuff there. It just, that isn't the reason, and it isn't a reason we should have gone in. Because we can't count on two hands how many countries in this world have weapons of mass destruction. So why are we going to level an entire country for doing the same thing that everybody else is doing? Like, that's not... All that was fear-mongering to get us into another conflict, like you said, to start the racket. Something a lot of people should do if they want to understand why we go to war. Go look, you understand this because of your father. Go look at the sales receipts of all of the war material that we lost in Vietnam, that we lost in Iraq, that we've lost in all these other conflicts, Syria, etc. Yemen. Go look at those contracts. When you see all that money, Alex Pereira just beat the crap out of Jamal Hill. If anybody here likes UFC. When 9/11 occurred and work acquaintance of mine had take on that it was foreign to me, had a take on it, his comment to me was, now America is in a position to do whatever. Yep. And Alex Jones was screaming this. Dude, Alex Jones said way before it even happened that there was going to be an attack on the World Trade Center and they were going to use it to justify a war in Iraq. And that's exactly what happened. And your work acquaintance, he was right. Now, it's kind of odd that he supported that. And that's exactly, and I think there were several people in politics at the time that said we need another Pearl Harbor so we can do what we want, stuff like that. And I question Pearl Harbor. Now, I do believe that Pearl Harbor happened. It was a surprise attack, but I think that we had some extra intel that was not, relayed. He didn't support it. He was just not under the proper. Oh, I got you. I get it. I get it. It's a racket, dude. I'm trying to remember who was that author? You might remember it, but let me see. I think the book is called War is a Racket. Joe Rogan talks about this book all the time, which is surprising. Yeah. Major General Smedley Butler. War is a Racket. That is the book people should read. It was a paradigm shift for me that in building 7. I can't remember when the shift was for me. Because, here's what's weird about my evolution in politics. Before I went into the Navy, I was a hippie. I was a weed-smoking, psychedelic-using, long, hair halfway down my back, anti-war hippie. But then, in a 2012 election, I became a staunch Ron Paul guy. Because I'm sure you remember Ron Paul running in 2012. And Ron Paul came, I read his book, In the Fed, and he had another book that I read. And he came to my university that I had just started attending to give a rally. Now, it was the most boring rally I ever attended in my life, because Ron Paul, sadly, does not have a lot of charisma. But I was listening to what he was saying, and that's what started my shift from being a overly liberal, leftist, hippie type to start going more just libertarian, conservative. And then, I did go pretty far right at one point. But then my libertarian ideas, my Ron Paulian ideas started shifting in it. And that's when I started paying attention to all the lies and looking back in history of, JFK, 9/11, Iran-Contra, the Reagan administration, the Bush administrations. So everything started to change for me. And then I would say now I am still mostly conservative. I would say, because I'm a Christian, so my religious values kind of take the forefront. But I'm also libertarian in the fact that I just want people to live their life, dude. And then I'm slightly libertarian when it comes to economic structures. Which is why I watch a lot of Dave Smith, which I don't agree with Dave Smith on his stances on Israel because he's a little too much. You were young. It's typical for young people to lean left. Yep. But then we start living on our own and our beliefs are challenged. Yep, exactly. When I joined the Navy at 19 and everything because I at one point I was hating my father. Now, I never hated my dad. I never like really hated him, but I hated his position in life. I hated what he was doing. Like, I hated that he was in the army. I hated because I spent most of my life without my dad being around because he was in Iraq and Afghanistan, Kuwait, etc. So like, I hated him for it. And like, I called him a baby killer at one point when I was like 16. I mean, I've regretted that my whole life. So that's kind of how I was. And then when I joined the Navy, because I went to college, I was still a hippie leftist, and I was working at Walgreens. I was a pharmacy technician. And I was starting to pay taxes and living on my own. I was like, man, F this. Something's got to give. And that's like when the Ron Paul stuff started for me. And once I got into Ron Paul, my ideas started changing, and my outlook on my father started really changing. And I started to appreciate what he had done in his life. Like, I started to understand where his perspective was. And then I also understood, I watched my dad, and this didn't happen until like the last decade. I watched my dad start to realize that he had been lied to as well. And so we kind of both grew in our political ideas together, which is interesting. Which is weird. My dad was a Democrat at one point, but the Democrats were something completely different. And he actually hated George Bush, which is odd because he supported. This was what was weird about the time during the Iraq War. Is people that hated George Bush and were Democrats still supported the war. It was just the overly leftists that didn't. Ron Paul is a brilliant man. He is a man of courage, of common sense, which is not common. Yep. It's not common these days. It was 2012. I was 18 years old when I picked up my first Ron Paul book. And like I said, he came to my university. I had just graduated high school. And that's where things started to shift. And I'll never forget, my dad like wanted me to join the military so bad. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. They're baby killers. And all that nonsense. And so I'm working in the pharmacy at Walgreens. And a Marine recruiter walks in. And he's like, do you plan on doing this the rest of your life? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I went to school for this while in high school to give me something to do when I got out. And he's like, well, if you ever want to consider the military, give me a call. And I remember thinking, when he said that, do you plan on doing this the rest of your life? I remember thinking, I really do hate this shit. Because I was standing behind a counter at Walgreens and I hated it. And so finally, I called my dad and I was like, I think I'm about to join the Marine Corps. He's like, what? Because I had been a hippie up until this point. And then he said what at first, and then he laughed, and he's like, I was expecting this eventually. And we both laughed about it. And our relationship started to get better. And then he was like, I know you're saying you want to join the Marine Corps, but maybe you want to consider the Navy instead. He was prior Navy and went blue to green to the Army. And I was like, yeah, you might be right. And I was really into aviation. And so I was still like, no, I think I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And as I'm walking into the Marine Corps office, I see the Navy posters of like F-18s and everything else. And I'm like, oh, that looks pretty sick. And so I walked into the Navy recruiter office. And it was funny. They were trying to sell me on it. And I said, print out the papers and I'll sign them right now. Just get me out of here. And they just started laughing. Okay, let's go. And like, what do you want to do? I was like, anything with aviation. Give me anything with aviation. And so I became an aviation structural mechanic. And I ended up working on the C-2 Greyhound for Northrop Grumman. A Northrop Grumman plane. And then I worked on the H-60 Sierra combat helicopter. And that started my path. And like I said, I was already deep into Ron Paul politics at that point. And so that changed me from being the hippy dippy guy to libertarian conservative. And that's who I am today. My family was also U.S. Navy, father, brother. That's awesome, dude. I hate what they've done to it. I was like, but I got a cough again. I'm getting sick, I guess. And I'm trying to quit smoking cigarettes. It's a nasty habit. And I'm down to like a few a day, but I'm still working on it. It's a military thing as well, I'm sure you're aware of. Trying to think what I was going to say. I don't remember what my train of thought was. Something about the Navy, but what they done to it. So I was in the last the last little bit of the Navy. Helps if you refer to yourself as a non-smoker. I'm working on that. I'll start doing that. My time in the Navy, it was like I was witnessing the collapse of it. I was witnessing like the last little bit of what the Navy used to be, of what the Navy my dad told me about. And like I was watching that part die. And what's crazy is like I was in the Navy when Trump took office. And you would think that if, we got a new Republican president, the Navy's going to get better. All of this weird stuff that's going on is going to stop. Nope. It went from 0 to 100. All of the stuff we were witnessing under Obama, all that, it's like they kicked it into overdrive when Trump took office. I don't understand how that happened. Trump had absolutely no control over the military. None whatsoever. And it went, I'll tell you, my last official duty in the Navy, and people don't believe me when I tell this, back in 2018, my last official duty was to locate a transgender bathroom. Yeah. I refused to do it. I got in trouble for it. I didn't get like kicked out or demoted or anything. But I refused to do it. And it was a direct order from my commander. Because this weirdo came from DC saying, well, y'all don't have a transgender safe space. And then he looked at me and he's like, petty officer, I'm not going to say my name. Petty officer, whatever. I need you to go locate this safe space for transgenders. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get right on that. And I sat on it for months until I got out. And I got smoke checked my last day in the chief's mess for it, for not following an order. I was like, well, can I just go home now? Like, I'm going home anyway. And then I told the petty officer, because I was supervisor, and I told the guy who was taking over my position, I was like, hey, they've been hounding me for months about looking for this transgender safe space, so I just want you to know you're about to be taking that on. So good luck. And we just laughed, and he's like, well, I'm on my way out too, so good luck. And that was my last experience in the Navy. That's how sad it is. Shameful. Yep. Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. I couldn't believe it. Because, like, all of this... I used to watch Men of Honor. That was my favorite movie growing up. Before I became a hippy-dippy bastard. But then it became my favorite movie again when I got older again. And that's the Navy I thought that I was going to be in. You know. And it turns out that's not what the Navy is anymore. And it, from what I'm hearing from all my people that are still in, it's gotten a lot worse. And these are the people that are supposed to be getting us into these wars. So, yeah, interesting. Which that is a great movie, by the way. Men of Honor is one of the best freaking Navy movies of all time. I don't care what anybody says. Like, that movie was so good. God dang it, Cookie. Get your Wisconsin ass back in the barracks, Snow Hill. Robert De Niro's a freaking idiot, but damn was he good. Seems all the twisted psychopaths have found their way into these positions of power. Yep. Oh, dude. The leadership in the Navy on my way out, horrible, horrible people. The worst possible example of leaders you would ever find. They were horrible. And I was like, I'm coming from a 30-year, at the time, like 20-year, but I'm coming from a 30-year, you know, Army officer, prior enlisted, a guy who's just hard as hard can be, you know. I'm thinking of this military that he grew up in, and I get there and I'm constantly butting heads with people because I'm going more to the right, and the Navy was going more to the left, and it was an interesting experience. I was constantly in trouble, constantly in trouble. I remember watching females who were clearly female. There was one girl, beautiful, and I watched her transition into a transgender and just destroyed herself. And the Navy paid for it. And I remember watching that, and I was like, how sad is this, dude? Like, you were so beautiful. And it was paid for by tax dollars. Women aboard ships now, I do not support this. Yeah. And a lot of them are getting railed out. Yep. It's an interesting time to be alive, dude. We are definitely witnessing the fall of Rome. That's definitely what it looks like. And just like these empires that fall, they overextend themselves in pointless conflicts. And they do so because they're making money. You know, these empires that end up falling for all these endless conflicts, they're doing it to, you know, take all the wealth from whatever country they're trying to take over. But then they overextend themselves because they get greedy. They're like, oh, we're really good at this. We can just keep on taking these people over and taking their wealth. And then eventually your military is so overextended. And then when you do that, that opens up the door for people who are psychopaths and, you know, crazy, weak people to fill the positions that you have overextended and left open. So then when all these people start coming back from these other conflicts that end, you know, the people that have taken the place of leadership and the logistical aspect are now running the military, and they're psychopaths. And that's basically what happened. Know a man with 3 young adult children. His son is now his daughter. His daughter is his son, and youngest is a lesbian. Yeah. It's a social contagion. Yep. Yeah, what sense does that make? There is no way that you had 3 children that are suddenly, you know, not in the right body and gay. It just, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. But they will gaslight you and say, you know, that's totally normal. Hasn't been normal for thousands of years. God, I feel so bad for that father. Is he supportive of it? I would assume he's not. I mean, you lost your damn son. He is? Oh my God. Well, then he's part of the problem. Sadly, he's helped destroy his children's lives by encouraging it. That's sad. That's so sad. I had nothing to say. Yeah, I wouldn't. What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Like, dude, you have destroyed your children. Yeah. There's nothing you can say. It's sick, man. I mean, this goes back to the Bible, dude. You know, they'll call evil good and good evil. And that's what it is. Like I said, I'm a Christian, and when I do see all of this happening, the social, cultural aspects, and then of course all of these wars, how can you not think of the Bible? Even if you're not a Christian, how can you not see everything going on and at least think like, I don't know, man, it seems kind of close to what it says. There's definitely some similarities here to what's going on and what it says would happen. Doesn't have to be, you know, you like I said, you don't have to believe it, but you at least have to question, like, they were on to something. Interesting times, man. I'm just glad that I can rant about this with you. I wasn't gonna. I said the only reason I'm streaming is because I said I was going to somebody earlier, but it's so late. I didn't expect there to be that many people, and I'm pretty sure the conflicts died down for the night. I am up in years now, 58, but with the way things, I wouldn't mind being 78. It's very disheartening for my generation, especially we were raised in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. So my dad's about your age. My dad is 56. Or my dad's 55, my mom is 56. So I've talked to them about this stuff all the time, and they're pretty disappointed and sad as well. I was saying recently I wish I was old. I wish I was in my 70s, because I still gotta potentially put up with the next 40, 50 years of this. I'll be 30 next month. I know I don't look 30 at all. If it wasn't for the beard, I would look like 22. But it's interesting, man. The times are interesting. Like I said, even if you don't believe in Christ or the Bible, it's at least, I don't understand people who look at the world like, yeah, this is like, these things happen. No, these things do not happen. We were raised with good old American ideals. It's unrecognizable today. Yeah. Yes, it is. I bet the 60s and 70s was wild, though. The Vietnam era. Because my dad has a theory that that's where, like, the downfall really started. Like, the psychedelic era. That created a bunch of leftist mutants who helped destroy the damn country overall. You know, that's when the Beatles, by design, yep. I mean, look at that book that was written by, what's his name? Tom O'Neill? Chaos, the Secret History of the CIA. The Charles Manson book. Even freaking Manson was orchestrated by the damn CIA. Which he didn't give any direct evidence, but he gave some pretty damning correlations that certainly point that the CIA was orchestrating that ordeal as well. I mean, they've been doing this shit for so long, dude. And I think, weren't they called the OSS before the CIA? And I'm pretty sure they were doing some crazy shit when they were called that as well. Which is funny, you know, almost 30 years old, and I get along with and I relate to people your age more than people my age, which is pretty crazy. I shake my head at most millennials. When I talk to a fellow 30-year-old, I'm like, what planet are you existing on, dude? Now, I will tell you what is very strange. It does look like the youngest generation that's coming out of high school right now are starting to lean more conservative. Check out the movie THX 1138, and you'll see the similarities with what we are living in today. It's Lucas' first feature film. Really? Are you talking about George Lucas? Like, because, I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a Star Wars tattoo and everything. I didn't know he... Let me see. Yeah, George Lucas. Wow. I wonder if I can watch the trailer on here. I'm not monetized anyway. Let's watch it. Hold up. Came out 1969-70. Okay, well, we're about to watch the trailer then.
All Earth Council, in its infinite wisdom, has decided these two numbers are to be disposed of. The Biochemical Forum has demands to make on their parts, however, before they are eliminated. That's the kind of efficiency that makes you proud to live in this era.
Robert Duvall is a badass, too.
This series compared to 38. Overrunning again. Okay, just back off, THX 1138.
You have asked, are we happy? Are we happy and effective? Consultation with leading experts in the field makes it perfectly clear,
This is giving off Stanley Kubrick vibes.
That we are all now programmed for perfect happiness, perfect happiness, perfect happiness, perfect happiness.
Deliver 38, we're correct.
All right.
See, that's very Stanley Kubrick-ish.
There are, of course, occasional technical or electronic errors in programming and or surveillance which produce perverse exceptions.
Wow.
I'm going to have a child.
First, they start skipping prescribed drug dosages. Then they begin touching, then indulging in various sexual acts, and the ultimate perversion, love. For such extreme psychobiological misfunction, only isolation will do.
TikTok generation.
Despite rumors to the contrary, it should be made perfectly clear, perfectly clear, perfectly clear. There have been no, repeat, no unprogrammed departures, no pursuits.
Wow.
The shell people will attack any persons venturing beyond
The
prescribed
shell
areas.
people. That's interesting. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that for sure. Like I said, that was very Stanley Kubrick. Like, that's what it felt like. It's a truly avant-garde. I never knew how to pronounce that word, so I almost have an aeronautical degree. And some words I can't pronounce, but predictive in its programming. Nice. I mean, look at all... There's a lot of movies like that, too. Yeah, that was interesting. I kind of want to read a little bit about it. I wonder if Wikipedia, like, butchered what it actually is. Gonna have to clean up some of the... 1971 American social science film, co-written George Lucas. Dystopian future in which the citizens are controlled by android police and mandatory use of drugs. Wow. Skipped the director's cut. It ruined it. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. See, this sentence right here, yep, you're right. This perfectly captures what we're living in. Controlled by android police and mandatory use of drugs that suppress emotions. Wow, dude. SSRIs. They had me on SSRIs when I was in the Navy, and I flushed them down the toilet. Because I didn't feel anything. Like, they helped me get through my depression for, like, the first couple months. And then there was a certain point when I realized, like, my mom had this, like, bad experience and, like, was crying on the phone. And I was listening to her, and I felt nothing. Like, normally, I would feel like, if my mom was upset, I would feel, like, some type of emotion. You know, I would, like, have some empathy. And I was on the SSRIs, Lexapro, I believe. And she was, like, crying on the phone to me, and I didn't feel anything no empathy towards her about her situation. And I was like, I didn't realize it at the time, and then I reflected on it later that day, and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. My mom was just crying on the phone, and I was just like, gave her the most basic, like, response to it because I felt nothing. And then I realized it was the drugs, and I flushed them down the toilet. And it took me a few months, and I started getting my emotions back. I chose this moniker for very personal reasons. I was injured by 3 prescribed psychoactive drugs. I am still incorrect. Oh, dude, that sucks. I'm sorry. That sucks. Yeah, I mean, these drugs are harmful, dude. I'm glad that I got off of them. They had me on a pretty strong dose, too. They had me on, I think, 30 milligrams of Lexapro. And I noticed a significant change in my empathy, and they end up in a water supply. Okay, I'll never do that again, then. I hope I didn't mess somebody up. Which is weird. That water that you flush down the toilet would end up in our water supply. How sick is that? Oh, okay. That makes sense. I mean, I guess, yeah, we do have to reuse water, or we would run out. Which brings me to another question. You mentioned that water treatment plants are not equipped to remove the drugs from water. So is that why we don't have any major, like, infrastructure to remove salt from water so we can drink ocean water? Because I always wonder, like, we have all this water, but we haven't created any large-scale infrastructure to desalinate the water. Is it because it's, like, really difficult? You might have an answer to that. I know a lot about airplanes. I don't know a lot about this stuff. Water is the most precious resource. The powers that be own it. Yeah, that's for sure. Do you think that there would be a way to large-scale desalinate ocean water? Because that's always been a question for people. I know ships do it. Like, naval ships have these things. The Bush family owned the largest aquifer on the planet. Oh, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. So they own the oil and the damn water. That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check out this movie, though. I'm going to see. Let's see if there's any update on Twitter. And then I'm gonna try to land my plane here soon. The Guarani Aquifer and Paraguay. I think that's how you say that country. I kind of suck at pronouncing stuff. Like I said, I'm like, when it comes to like aviation and space stuff, I'm like really smart. And when it comes to pronunciation, I butcher it. Let's see. I'm going to look up that as well. You're teaching me all kinds of stuff in real time here. Which I appreciate you being here, by the way. I'm going to stream. I got to work tomorrow evening, but tomorrow around 2, I'm going to go live with some updates on the situation. Guarani Aquifer System, named after the Guarani indigenous nation, is one of the largest groundwater reservoirs in the world. The GAS was previously known as the Aquifer in Brazil, the Tacarumbu, or I guess that's how you say it. Well, young man, thank you for the discussion. You are on the right track. Good to see younger men discerning truth in this fog of Western civilization. Hey, I appreciate it, dude. And I appreciate your wisdom and giving that some of that to me tonight. I just got off work, so I'm a little tired, but I'm sure you've lived a long and happy life despite, you know, what you mentioned earlier with the psychoactive drugs. Do you have a family, like kids or anything? You may have mentioned that. But I'm gonna look into all this stuff. I'm bookmarking it now. Grandparent of 3. That's awesome, dude. I don't have any kids of my own. I have a bunch of nephews, but parents of 4. So yeah, you've lived a long and rich life. I like to hear that, man. You're a inspiration to me. I hope that I can have kids myself one day. I still haven't found a suiting wife. I was married in the Navy and I got divorced, so. But I am hoping one day that can happen. Parenting takes everything from you and adds even more. See, that's why I would like to have kids one day. I see people, my family, I have two siblings, a brother and a sister. My sister has 2 kids, my brother has 1, and my nephew and my nephews and my niece are like, they're my life, you know, because I don't have my own kids. But it is awesome watching them raise kids and see how much they add to their lives, but they don't have any time for anything. I got all the time in the world. I'm working full time, I'm doing this, and I'm in flight school. I got all the time anybody could possibly have. And I do all that, and I'm still doing other things, like. But, like I said, I appreciate your wisdom, sir. It was nice talking to you. Like I said, I don't think that there's any new update. Everything I'm reading seems like it's just the same things, which is funny when stuff like this happens. It's just constant repetition of the same thing over and over again. Yeah, so I don't see any new updates. I am going to check Fox News, even though I'm not a fan of Fox News per se, but as far as corporate media is concerned, they're, you know, we'll see where this goes. Stand by to stand by. Yeah. Yep. It all seems the same stuff is going on. So, around 2 tomorrow, I don't know if you subbed or not. If you did, I appreciate that. 2 p.m. tomorrow before I go to work, I'm going to go live. And if there's any updates, I'm going to cover that. And we will see where it goes. We will see where it goes. But anyways, thank you, man. If anybody else came in here, I appreciate you. I hope you and your family Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow, man. Have a great night. I subscribed previously. Good night. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You as well.